and the talk topic is blockchain temporality. I'm a philosopher at the New School, and I think about time and many other kinds of things, including blockchain technology. So I'm interrogating the idea of time specifiability with smart contracts in this talk. And the slides are available online at slideshare.net/LaBlaga. So there's a classic problem that we haven't solved yet, namely, how can we make more time? So I'd like to offer you a potential solution to that during this talk. My thesis is that we need a concept of temporality that is adequate to the future, a model that has open possibility space for both the form and content of time, that is multiple and complex, discrete and continuous, and integrates the unstoppable flow of physics and biology human time with that of manipulable compute time. So who here has a relationship with time? Is it all of us? Yes. Everybody always has something to say on this topic. So part one, I'd like to propose a new theory of time. So we are in a situation where we would like to develop empowering human-machine collaborations. This is a law firm that my friend Tim Wong runs in San Francisco with the law partners, the Apollo Cluster, the Daria XR 1099, and Tim Wong, a human partner as well. So it nods to the fact that machine processing is becoming more and more sophisticated. And we have a situation where humans and machines are running different time paradigms. So we have a human time of physics and biology that's continuous, inexorable, and flowing unidirectionally, with their identifiable fixed endpoints such as birth and death. Compute time, on the other hand, is discrete and malleable, interruptible, with multiple temporal regimes, discrete time, no time, asynchronous time, and the possibility of evolving new kinds of temporal paradigms, such as with blockchain technology. So time is a collective illusion already, a non-spatial continuum that is measured in terms of events which succeed one another from the past through the present to the future. That's the dictionary definition. A number of philosophers have thought about time over time. Bergson was one in the late 1800s, and he identified two different time paradigms: objective, quantitative, measured clock time. You can measure while you're waiting for, or you can measure time with a watch, or the other paradigm, subjective, qualitative time, the internal experience of lived time, namely that time can fly by when you're in a flow state or having fun, or when you're waiting, it can seem like it takes forever. And Bergson called this internal qualitative time duration. Husserl then took up some of these temporal ideas, and he identified three time paradigms: Bergson's objective measurable time, the subjective experience of time, and a third mode of time by which we understand the other two modes. Mostly, however, though, Husserl is known for his internal time consciousness proposal. Is anybody familiar with this? So this is one of the main philosophical thinkers referred to in the case of time, where there are two modes: discrete time of the past memories and the farther future, and time that's continuous, right around the present now moment with the rapidly eclipsing past moments and the quickly approaching future moments. So there's a continuousness of time around the present now moment, but then when we think about the past or the future, time becomes more of a discrete kind of conception. So I posit that a middle term of time is needed. We're in an either-or of discrete and continuous, or a snapshot or a flow, digital or analog, and what if we pull back and have sort of a bigger conceptualization of time? One reason why is that we know we're not good at thinking about time as humans. There's research from Derek Parfit that has been confirmed in fMRI studies at UCLA that we think of we don't distinguish our future self as anything different from a politician or a celebrity. We are biologically poor at considering the future. There are other examples like black swans or other cognitive biases. So therefore, I think that we need a new temporality of the future. temporality in a more open, non-determined possibility space of both form and content, where new trajectories might be possible. This would be a temporality of multiplicity and complexity to accompany many of the complexity-oriented systems theoretic ways that we're now starting to consider many phenomena in reality. So, for example, have you seen this picture from March of this year? Probably a lot of people are familiar with this, where for the first time we have captured photographically light in its two modes as a particle and as a wave. And so light's dual nature inspired me in considering time, that what if perhaps time is quite similar, namely that time might exist in a raw material state before it collapses into a reality instance of being either continuous or discrete. So maybe light is like time. It can be a particle or a wave. Time can be continuous or discrete. And so I propose this as a middle third, this raw material kind of time, existing in a possibility state before collapsed into a reality state. So already we are starting to think about the composability of time in the physical world. In information theory, working with, does anybody work with Shannon's sampling, for example? So in this paradigm, already space-time is formatted as being simultaneously discrete and continuous. So it's not even such a radical kind of idea that discrete and continuous are just two modes of time. Further, at the very small scale, at the Planck scale, we certainly think of time and matter as being composable, that we might use Lego blocks modes of composing reality. So now moving to part 2, I'd like to talk specifically about compute time and block time as a temporality paradigm. So the contemporary situation is one in which it's a world of algorithmic reality. There's an increasing presence of technology where everything is a math problem: health, information technology, everything. And we're moving rapidly to an automation economy, robotics taking over more operations. For example, big next sector to go could be commercial driving, thought to perhaps be automated in the U.S. within 10 years. So that at the same time, there's an explosion in classes of compute technology: personalized robotics, brain-computer interfaces, quantified self-wearables, smart homes, smart cars, etc. There's starting to be many more classes of compute technology than biological things like a human. We're also heading to different future situations that could be really quite different, with more digital societies, cloud minds, collaborations between physical and virtual reality, where in the physical world, temporality and spatiality have been the fundamental organizing parameter, but that might be a lot less relevant in digital worlds. So we might need new models of correspondence between our internal mind and experience and what the external experience of reality is. So looking at temporality paradigms, there's human time. This is how we experience time. Time is a continuous flow. This is the time of physics and biology. On the other hand, there's compute time, computing clock time eras, where in general time has become stoppable and malleable. Machine learning and big data temporality has further allowed us to make time future addressable and predictable. We have causality models that are really prediction models. We're starting to model all human and natural patterns. We're in process of shifting our locus of where of activity from reactive response to proactive attending to the real-time present and possible futures. So block time is one specific such compute time temporality, where time becomes radically future assignable, future creatable in a sense. So how many people are familiar with blockchain technology? Many people. So blockchain is the decentralized computing architecture, the software protocol upon which cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin operate. Block time is the temporal regime of cryptographic ledgers and smart contracts, where time is specified in terms of units of confirmation blocks, of transaction blocks, not minutes or hours like our human time, which has a lot more variability. For example, the park closes at dark, which can be at very different times in different seasons. So there's a notion of specifying future time with smart contracts, where time has not been future specifiable before, but now we might assign it in block time smart contracts. For example, a classic example of a smart contract is a weather bet for tomorrow, that you and I might engage in a weather bet about the high temperature tomorrow. We post funds to escrow in a blockchain format, and then tomorrow the software code smart contract will check weather oracle, like weather.com, obtain the high temperature tomorrow, and automatically execute the payout. So that's an example of an automated interaction with time that we don't need to further engage. We specify an event to happen tomorrow in future time. Other kinds of examples could be automatically e-debiting our accounts for utility bills, quite similar to the way that many of us do now, but just handled by blockchains. Similarly, the entire mortgage industry, for example, might be outsourced to smart contract management. From a technical perspective, there's the idea of assigning time primitives. So just like any other code-based primitive, there could be time primitives, and this is contemplated in MTL, Machine Trust Language, which is part of the programming architecture of the blockchain world. And then, so for example, there is the notion of micropayment channels or payment channels. So you open up a payment channel that you are escrowed to pay for your usage-based consumption of a certain resource, say a YouTube video, and that a smart contract tracks the amount of time that you consumed a certain resource and automatically handles the payment. And that could be in a DApp, a distributed application format. So the notion here is having temporality as a smart contract feature. The temporal regime would be a contract specifiable parameter per a drop-down menu, just as legal regime is or a CC license is now. Some of the different kinds of block time specifications that we might want include time speedups, slowdowns, event weighting, prediction markets, Bayesian distributed future event positing. So different kinds of things that we might do when we conditionally consider future events. So my conjecture that I'd like to pose to you is that block time makes more time. In fact, any compute time paradigm, like block time, creates a differential with human time. Since there is a differential, that means a few things. First of all, it's possible to hedge or arbitrage between the two different domains. So an example of block time arbitrage could be where you have a decentralized peer-to-peer loan coming due in block time, but without having had enough physical world time cycles to generate the fiat resources to repay your loan. So that's an example of unfavorable arbitrage, but there could be other favorable arbitrages. Since there's a differential between human time and block time, it could be possible to make more time by accessing events in other time trajectories, and thereby getting access to more time. So a simple example of this is already our digital social media. If you consider Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, for example, you can see and experience event trajectories in other paradigms that you did not physically experience yourself. And so that's sort of a way of accessing more time. That's my argument, essentially one of parallelism, where the core dimension is having a sense of more time due to an ability to access events in other time trajectories. And the future could be exactly this, running in parallel time trajectories. We have our physical-based self, and we might have a variety of digital selves that engage in different virtual operations for us. Thus, we could acquire more time through multiple and parallel experiences of time. Already, arguably, history is a form of time parallelism, that through culture, we can access events where we were not physically present at living, say the moon landing, but that we're able to extend via sociality already our access to a sort of experience of what these other events were like. So, of course, this raises more philosophical questions. Namely, one of my favorites when I give this talk is, wait, do we really need more time? And some people wonder, well, how could we experience the benefit and meaning of having more time? What does it actually mean to access alternative trajectories? How might we knit them together? How do we integrate the diffs? How do we pull the meaningful parts out and synthesize them? Maybe there's a Moore's law for time. What about the limits of computational complexity in time? So there are a number of interesting research questions. So overall, my thesis has been that a concept of temporality is needed that is adequate to the future, a model that has an open possibility space for both the form and content of time that is multiple and complex, discrete and continuous, and integrates the unstoppable flow of physics and biology human time with manipulable compute time. In conclusion, I presented Blocktime Temporality, which merges human time and compute time, and this new theory of time as a raw material, existing as both continuous and discrete before collapsing into a specific reality case. I argued that maybe we can make more time by accessing alternative time trajectories. Overall, the stakes are that this could help orchestrate the automation economy and futures that include human-machine collaboration, digital smart networks, and algorithmic reality more generally. So I have inspiration from Kurt Vonnegut with his salami mercury theory of time, a quantitative-qualitative theory of time, where he thought that one of the biggest mistakes we're making has to do with what time really is. We have all these instruments for slicing it up like a salami, calendars and clocks, discrete models, when in fact time is these are as likely to break into pieces or go scampering off as dollops of mercury. So nodding to the qualitative composition of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Nice to see some philosophers. Because also I'm not computer science directly, so I like this theory. But I was wondering why. I mean, I don't see any account given from you to the circularity of time. So you decided you have depicted as a line, but we see a lot of circle actually, even to the cyclical idea, which actually also for the example of the art closes at dark, we can see. Forget about just measuring time as distances. That's actually a precise moment, moment in a cyclical environment.
Yes.
That could also be used, actually even in the computers. The clock,
cycles.
The clock, the speed is in cycles anyway, so there is a circular structure to it, which I haven't seen.
I appreciate that, and I think it's important to consider these additional qualitative paradigms that we haven't really been able to accommodate in our computing paradigms yet. So like cyclicality, I think, for example, most of our recombinant neural nets, for example, run on time series data. But that might be might be too simplistic of a time paradigm. No wonder we don't find a predictive cause for aortal events, for example, for predictive heart disease events, because I think we need to enrich our time paradigms from a computing perspective. Thank you for that.
One thing which might be relevant that I was thinking about in the talk is how, when I was a student, we didn't have so much access to computers, and we wanted to communicate with someone, we would send a letter and write it out in longhand or type it and get an envelope and stamp. And you would think that with all this automation, we would have much more time or be much more productive. But subjectively, I think my experience is I'm not really much more productive than I was when I was in school, and I don't seem to have much more time now than I did then. So
been sort of a failure to deliver on the qualitative experience of time that perhaps we might have been promised or might hope for. We feel more stressed, in fact, and we need more boundaries
In the future, we can expect these trends to continue.
to worsen.
You won't even have to write email and just think something and the person will receive it or something like that. So how would what's going to be
So what's your worry? I heard we didn't get the subjective benefit that maybe we might have thought, and maybe we should consider this in the automation economy.
Here we thought that in the future we would have more leisure time. We would have 1 hour a day or 1 hour work.
Sure, a 4-hour work week. Yeah, so I think that starts to bring in other problems, namely like why in fact is there not more technological unemployment these days, and so I think there are uneven social political reasons that we would need to start entering into. I think a related portion of my material to this considers that exactly this question about the quality of life that has not seemed to have been delivered upon yet. And I think we have an impoverished conception still of work and of life. And so work is still this labor-based economy concept, and we need to shift that to more of a fulfillment basis. And namely also with life as well. We think of life in two modes, work and leisure, and a balance maybe between them. But life could have many more kinds of categories that would start to address the fulfillment economy, how we actually experience a heightened quality of life, not more stress due to email, etc.
Thanks very much for the talk. Two small things maybe first, because I wouldn't say don't really get why you describe block time as a different thing. I would just say it's a very inaccurate time anyway, because if you compare it to like normal time measurement, it's basically used, I think, because there's nothing better on the blockchain, so you have to use it. So I would like to start on that. And then I had the feeling that when you described getting more time away through Facebook or whatever, or other technologies, like I like the philosophy behind it, but I think in practice it seems like based on a fallacy that sure you can experience moments that you otherwise would not experience, but you also miss out on the now while you experience these moments. So of course you don't actually have more time. And I think that also relates to
Quality of life, FOMO. and not only am I not having more time, I'm actually even missing out on these, actually really experiencing these other time trajectories.
So you get the picture you showed with the present and then obviously if you relive in a way the Facebook moment from the past, then you cannot experience it now.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. So your first point was maybe block time is an inaccurate time paradigm, and it's the internal time regime of blockchain technology. And so for you, perhaps that's inaccurate, or I would say it's always fungible. It's just like Bitcoin is always tradable out to any fiat currency like dollars. That block time is always immediately fungible, convertible to NIST time or to any regular human time paradigm. What I think is interesting, what got me interested in this idea of block time, is that a time domain is internal to the phenomenon of the thing. And so maybe different planets have a different internal time paradigm, or clock time makes sense in a different way than human time. So I'm sort of fascinated with the notion of what is an internal, a temporal paradigm that arises from and is native to different domains. So that's what I think is interesting to interrogate, and then its differences to human time. It's very interesting. So great, I get a blockchain loan, peer-to-peer based DApp loan, but yet I have to generate resources in this other time domain. And so I think that's an interesting. Do you have a follow-up?
Though maybe then that also you would also have to say that it's malleable, I think, because if you would add more computing resources, or somebody else would add more computing resources, your loan would actually come to term more quickly, I think, which might not be what you want.
Right, speed ups. And I think we have...
or slower.
Exactly. And so this gets into science fiction, for example, the Chila disk world, 1,000 times sped up time. So there's some examples in science fiction that could be inspirational. So I think it's sort of fascinating, this new possibility in our world of different time paradigms, something becoming more real to us. Not just clock time, human time, but maybe many different forms of time paradigms. And that's a kind of a new thing for us to figure out how to live with. Your other point is, I take to be about mindfulness. Namely, if there are all these other time paradigms, how do I expand my present now and appreciate this? And how do I manage how I'm experiencing or living in the past, present, future? And I heard your worry is if I become too distracted by other time paradigms, I forget to experience the quality of this now moment. So I think I see that as another sophistication learning that we do as human subjects in this possibility of an expanded time domain or different kinds of flavors of time. How do we adapt to that and create for that and take upon ourselves, for example, as entrepreneurs, to create beneficial subjective solutions that improve our quality of life, not that, or social norms about how to use the technology. So we're mindful of wanting to improve our quality of life as opposed to it being a detriment.
There has been a fair amount of effort in developing standard ontologies for certain concepts of time.
Yes.
W3C owl time, OMG's date time.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing here, do you think this is ready for a standard ontology formalization?
I think block time, certainly what kind of time parameters we're using in blockchain technology is highly relevant for that. And including also other domains, for example, brain-computer interfaces. That's a very tight integration of a compute time and a human time. So I would like to see more standards, definitely. Thank you.
To me, in some ways, this is the old made new again. People have always had abstractions, grain size, a kind of temporal aspects to events that have significance to them or that correspond to the way that they experience or perceive.
Yeah.
But I think what's different with block time that's pretty intriguing is it creates a shared realm, a very widely shared realm, with very well-defined legal, financial, economic, etc. type consequences. And so it also is, its plasticity is widely shared. It's something that is specifiable in a widely shared way. So it takes these things that we've always operated with, but in a way that we kind of couldn't get out of our own heads as easily or as crisply. So I think that, Tara's point about, think about, is this ready to, or replication, let's say. Think about how to specify it in a, more rigorous and shared way. I think it's important because people have always had this ability to have the parallel kind of time streams to dip into them or participate in them. Read a history book or whatever. Okay. Just remember something.
Yes. Yes, it's not.
Or envision some future thing. So I think what's different here really is that sharing, and I think that's I think I would emphasize that as far as where to go with this.
A benefit. I appreciate that. The crispness that we're able to define this block time terminology that can persist across the legal financial domain in a helpful kind of way. Yes.
And then it itself becomes building blocks to develop more specific concepts in a whole lot of realms, but again, pretty widely shared within each of those realms.
Yes, it's a really global infrastructural piece that I think helps us get to many next places like million-member biobanks and things like that.
What is a biobank?
biobank, so your electronic medical records. So right now our biggest human repository of genome files is 4,000 files. We have 7 billion people. So we really we can't harness the big data of medicine until we get maybe 100,000 or a million member genome file databanks. They have much more, and they have the phenotypic data with the genotypic data, which is. Yes, and so we would like to stick our RuleML algorithms and our machine learning and our recombinant neural nets and our predictive graph theory models and all of these kinds of algorithms on learnings from that. And so to me, blockchain technology is a global infrastructural paradigm that lets us get to these next levels. So I appreciate your phrasing the crispness of the infrastructure facilitation.
It always struck me as strange because clearly computers don't use the time the same way. Like in Jeopardy, Watson essentially reads the question, immediately has the answer, and then the contest is who buzzes in first. Things like that. So I was wondering if you had a comment about.
So you were suggesting maybe a handicap for.
Or to just to frame in some sense, all of these contests are in some sense more about time than actually the specific.
The content. Yeah, that's a structural feature of our world. So we could have to adapt things, more things than we had even thought maybe, would be my answer.